All right, let's try to finish this chapter up. We're just about done. Okay, so we were talking about violent weather. So thunderstorms, of course. You have lightning. Lightning is very possible, and that's just because there's charge separation within the clouds, and if lightning uh, occurs, often we'll hear thunder with it, and that's just the air that expands because the air is heated by the lightning's really hot, by the way, and the voltage can be as many millions of volts. Uh, it's not something you want to encounter. Uh, Most people don't live if they get hit by lightning. And I think of all the places on the continental United States, I think Florida is has the most lightning strikes, and the most fatalities, unfortunately, due to lightning as well. All right. So as I mentioned before, tornadoes, of course, are these rotating. They're in the northern hemisphere. Of course, they're rotating counterclockwise. Um, they're rotating around a low pressure system. Let's see, tornadoes. Yeah, I already covered this. Okay, so then we get to hurricanes. Hurricanes again. It's there's a low pressure system. Um, and the winds rotate around the low pressure system, and that's of course that the low pressure system is called the eye of the hurricane. Um, there's a continuous supply of energy from the warm tropical waters. As soon as the hurricane hits land, that energy source is cut off and it begins to weaken. Um, but if it hits, there's five categories. As anybody living in South Carolina should know, there's five categories of hurricane, and if you're near the coast and a category 3 or 4 or 5 is approaching, you definitely want to evacuate. And they have evacuation routes right along the coast of South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, and of course Florida as well. Um, all right. What else? Let's see. Strong vertical shear winds can shear and cause the warm air to tilt towards the spiral. And this is what's called. Oh, so this is how it starts. This is what's called a tropical depression. The tropical depressions don't always develop into a storm. Um, if it intensifies, it progresses into what's called a tropical storm, and you get an increase in speed, in wind speeds. If the wind speeds get to 30 kilometers per hour, 300 kilometers per hour, that's considered a hurricane. Let's see, what's in the eye of the hurricane? That is an area of low pressure. Right? Um, Weather forecasters involve collecting data all over the world. All right, so this is actually the last part of this chapter. Is how to forecast the weather. All right, so and I'll try to go through as much of this as I can. Um, with forecasting the weather, let me just say this. Um, in a short amount of time, like short periods into the future, we can, with some accuracy, with some pretty good accuracy, actually, we can predict the weather, like within, a 24-hour period or maybe a 48-hour period. You can pretty accurately predict the weather, but it turns out the further into the future that you predict the weather, the worse your prediction is going to be. And that is because the weather, we can't know everything about all the different conditions that affect the weather. We just can't write them all down. There's just not, it's not possible. Um, the little um, things that you might not even know about can greatly affect the outcome of the weather of further and further into the future. So we use computer models, of course, we gather as much data as we can and we try to predict. But even the computer models will break down and not give us very accurate forecasts if we go too far into the future. So what they generally do is they'll give you what they think what the weather people, I should say, what the weather is going to be like tomorrow, the next day, and even out to they try to go out a full week or so. But if you go beyond that, you really can't predict what's going to happen. And so you generally talk about what are called trends. The trend will be in the next 2 weeks is that the weather will warm, or the weather will get colder, or something like that. It's never anything like very specific. Hey, 2 weeks from now you got to put on a raincoat on Monday or something like. They just you can't predict that far into the future. All right, so this is the weather forecasting that is used. So these are some different symbols. You can't really see them that well here. Let's see if you here. Let me see if I can. Let's see if I can get a better look at these. All right, so here you can kind of see what I'm reading here. The data on the models, a combination of symbols, shorthand, codes. All right, so let me read some of these. An open circle means no clouds. A half circle represents 5/10 of cloud. Half the sky is cloudy. Vertical lines extended from the circles show the wind entries. Single line represents calm winds. Perpendicular segments rising from the lines represents greater wind. More segments, the stronger the wind. The circle and wind lines are then surrounded by various symbols representing different conditions. For example, two short lines segments represent pressure tendencies. Lines that rise and fall diagonally represent falling and rising and falling pressure. Lines that rise diagonally then extend horizontally means hold on, I'm losing where I'm at. Means the rising and steady pressure. A series of dots represents precipitation. One dot means light rain. Three dots in a triangular form represents moderate rain. Temperature and visibility and dew point and precipitation numbers are also listed. In addition, station maps show multiple wavy lines drawn throughout that connect points of equal pressure. Equal pressure, by the way, are called isobars. We're going to do if you haven't already done it, there's a lab which you predict the weather. Basically, what you do is here. Let me go back to this. The basic idea of weather prediction is what direction is the front moving. If it's moving in a from low pressure, it always moves from low pressure to high pressure, and if the front is moving at a certain rate, you can predict if you know what the rate is, how fast it's moving. You can predict where that front's going to be in a couple of hours or something like that. All right, these are all the symbols that I was just mentioning. So I wish this was a little bit bigger. We can see it. We can see it a little better. All right. So anyhow, that's the isobars are equal pressure, and remember, the wind usually goes from high pressure to towards low pressure. All right. So You'll see more of these symbols in the lab if you haven't had the lab already, as I just said. All right, very good. So that is the end of chapter 25.